Finance Committee to order on November 30th at 7:03 p.m. Our first order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at them. We have any questions, comments?
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I reviewed the minutes and they kind of look like they were a bit out of order, I think. It looked like I was listed as not present along with Mr. Langone, but for a bunch of the new business items, it had me listed as making motions on a bunch of things. So I'm not sure if it's a mixing of prior minutes or current minutes.
Let me look, because you were at the last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You know, I didn't print out the minutes myself. That's why I just need a minute here to take a look at them. I don't know. Was somebody just saying something?
Nope. Do you want me to do you want to just postpone these till the next meeting and I can just redo the video and go from there?
No, it's okay. Let me just take a look real quick. So what do you think is out of order? Yeah, okay. So we need to add your name. You were there is what we need to do. So if we can just amend the FinCom minutes from that meeting and make sure that MJ, she was present. Lee Bean actually came in late and Eric was not present. So we do need to amend that to show that MJ was at that meeting.
Okay.
All right. And was there anything else? Oh, sorry about that. German shepherds are not quiet. All right, so if we want to do a motion, if we can just do a motion with the amended that MJ was present.
Motion to approve with amendment.
We have a second. Okay, who was that second? I'm sorry.
It was Susie.
Okay, thank you, Susie. Debbie, if you could do a roll call for us, please.
Certainly. Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
and MJ.
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Our next order of business is public comments. If we do have any public comment, I'd ask that you state your name and your street address for the record. Do we have any public comments?
It doesn't look like any public.
Yeah, I don't
Are
see
on.
anybody here.
Nope.
Okay, moving on to new business, order FY 23-031, prior fiscal year bill. Tony.
I think the explanation does it. Unless you have any questions, I can read it for the record.
No, I don't think that, just for the record, I'll read the explanation. Prior fiscal year bill from FY 2022 for unseen unemployment chargeback of a disputed claim for a former employee. All attempts for appeal of this claim have been exhausted. Okay, do we have any questions, comments for Tony?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
All right, MJ.
So just reading this, am I understanding it right that we had someone who was released of service from the town, requested unemployment, was eventually rejected for it, then appealed and then got it?
The individual left the
Okay.
town and then filed, and it was challenged, and with no prevail by the town, it was supported by unemployment.
Okay.
Were there any legal costs for that for us anywhere?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, none
Thank you.
whatsoever. Normal course of business.
And has the position been refilled or will it be refilled?
Oh, the position was refilled after the individual left a few months, I think, after.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
How much do we have total in the other one-time stabilization fund, Tony, currently?
I can, while we move on, I can look that up
Okay.
as we speak.
Because I think there's another order here that actually comes from the other one-time stabilization fund too. So,
Sure, I'll pull that up and take a look at it. While we're moving on, I'll give you the balance. There certainly is enough to cover these allocations.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments on this order? Not hearing any. Do we, Chair will entertain a motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ. Do we have a second?
Second, Rig.
Thank you, Rig. All right, if we have a roll call, please, Debbie.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
and MJ.
Aye.
I like
Uh,
that. I like that. Aye, Rick. Just saying. I'm right there with you on that.
5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next is FY 23-032 Veterans Tax Benefits. And as I was reading this, so Tony, just
Mhm.
real quick, so this, as you read all the whereas, so the
Mhm.
town is adopting abatements, real estate tax abatements, right?
Mhm.
That are offered under state law, essentially Massachusetts general law. Is that what I'm reading here, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And this will allow for abatements of real estate taxes for veterans, disabled veterans, and the spouses of veterans killed in action.
right. And we already offer that.
That was my
Um,
next question. Thank
We
you.
already offer that. What this is extending it further to is if someone puts their property into a trust.
Okay.
We did not adopt this section of the law, which would allow that. In talking with the assessor, I think there maybe have been one, there's been one individual in all her time with the town that has requested this provision, or whether or not the town had adopted it. But it was put forth by Councilor Moore and Councilor Wood.
Okay, I mean, I can see it here now. To be eligible for such exemptions if the property is owned by a trustee, a conservator, or other fiduciary for the applicant's benefit, which means they no longer really have legal possession of it, interest in it. Okay.
Yep.
I get it. Any other questions, comments for Tony on this one?
I do have a question, Nate.
Yeah.
Tony, so as you mentioned, there's only one person in town that's actually applied for this. I would have thought there would have been a few more.
I'm just am conveying to you what has been the experience of the assessor, chief assessor.
Okay, okay. Do we anticipate anybody inquiring further about it, just because it is?
I think it was, I think there may be one individual now, and there may be others when this becomes public knowledge that would be looking to take advantage of this exemption, this statute that allows for that veterans exemption.
And
Yeah.
this would be in addition to the other types of abatements and exemptions that we have eligible for various types of residents in town, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
That was a good point, Tony, too, is that, people may fear, going for that protection, especially when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, because they're afraid of losing abatements if they go into fiduciary. So this could actually be an opportunity for some of our veterans.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, anybody else? Questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay, not hearing any. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
MJ, thank you.
Second, Susie.
Thank you, Susie. If we do a roll call, please, Debbie?
Sure. Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
Rig
Aye.
and MJ.
Aye.
5, 4, 0 against.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to FY 23-033, acceptance of an elderly services grant. Thank you very much for the information that was included in the package. you know, that's one thing I just want to say real quick that is great now about these packages. We get so much information in them. I'm sure that other committee members would agree. So at the end of the day, we have an acceptance. We have a grant for elderly services, you know, grants, free money, essentially. And it seems like they're doing a great job down there because it seems like there's quite a few grants coming in for elderly services in town here. So any questions, comments on this grant?
I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, that I'm very happy that the town continues to apply for and receive grants. I would say to the senior center director, I'd say keep up the good work, and any more grants that come along our way, apply for them as quickly as possible so we can try to continue that string of successes that we've been having. So it's good to see it happening, and it's good to see us getting those funds for our residents and those that definitely need it in our community.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah, so ditto.
Yep. Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second,
Second.
Okay, thank you, MJ. Thank you, Julie, on the second. Debbie, if we could do a roll call, please.
Sure. MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Julie,
aye.
and Nate.
Aye.
5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving right along. Order FY 23-034. Transfer order, employee previous year retro longevity. Again, it looks like it's coming out of this other one-time stabilization, Tony, do we?
There's $100,000 in that fund as prior to these appropriations.
And after this evening, well, it looks like that we're looking to appropriate about 19,000 total.
Mhm.
Okay, any details on this one that you think would help the committee or any info, Tony?
In doing an audit of all of our, we're putting together a new and using a new financial forecasting software. And in going through how all the benefits, because we want to do a fully loaded cost of contract for each bargaining unit, as well as the total cost for operating departments, which include all kinds of benefits. That's and the short answer is we identified where someone moved from a bargaining unit, which they weren't eligible for longevity, to a non-union position, which is under the town handbook, which they were eligible for longevity. And this is to correct that from prior years and to appropriate an amount for this coming fiscal year that the individual would be eligible for. So this is to correct that employee benefit.
Tony, I have a question to you, Nate.
Mhm.
So does that mean that the years that longevity is based on the amount of service? So if
Mhm.
the amount that they're being paid out, is that based on only on the time that they spent? Is it cumulative? Like if you had you weren't eligible for it in your old position, so you did 10 years there and 2 years in this position or whatever it is, isn't longevity, is it based on a combination of both positions or just on the?
No, once you moved out of the bargaining unit, the language in a bargaining unit precluded the individual from it. Once they moved out, the years of service, and it particularly has to do with a separation period where someone was working for the town for an extended period of time, then left for a short period of time and then came back. And so everything was looked at through the lens of the employee handbook, which allowed for the years of service to not necessarily be concurrent. The total years of service were combined for the period prior to her separation, and also included the number of years the individual came back. And that's how the town manager has interpreted this benefit, and this is to correct and ensure that the individual gets those wages due.
So does the benefit continue going forward, and it could happen with somebody else? I mean, it's probably rare, but
We're reviewing it. There may be one other individual where we're going through some calculations, but their total years of service may not put them into a longevity pay yet.
But going forward, will it be written the same, or is it written the same? So if someone works 10 years in one, went on, and then they leave and come back, where we don't have that concurrency thing. You don't see it in the media right now, but without amending the contracts to say concurrently, we could foresee this in the future. Am I
I
understanding?
mean,
it
yeah, what you're saying is that an employee that moves out of a bargaining unit into a non-bargaining unit, could that be impacted? The town manager is also looking at the languaging in the handbook.
All right, that's what I'm at. Okay.
And that would look to address this.
And is he looking at it with the attorney, like, is it the attorney that's looking at it with who? Like, you said that's the way he interprets it. Would
well-
everybody interpret it that way?
Well, again, it was, the handbook is a policy, and the policy of the handbook is established by the town manager. And in this case, a policy is that to adhere to the policy consistently, fairly. Bargaining units have their own policies written into them, as you're aware.
Mhm.
So we're looking at all of it just to, again, align things. There's one other individual, as I said, that we know about, and we're looking into it right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Good questions. Anybody else for Tony? Questions, comments?
Nope, thank you.
Not hearing any. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ray. Debbie, if we could have a roll call, please.
Sure, Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
No.
Susie,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
and MJ.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on here, FY 23-035, the Bridgewater Public Library Staff Contract Ratification. Tony, if you would just give us a quick.
There's a couple things that I think would be highlighted. Is the longevity has changed. It's a flat dollar amount. There are very few individuals.
Whoops.
All right.
So the longevity is only relevant to a few employees. The biggest change is finally putting in place a wage table, which is in line with our USW wage table, and putting individuals on the proper grade and the proper step. So it's suffice to say, we're very pleased that we are beginning to narrow the different pay scales. Certainly the positions in the grade establishment is done by the HR director, the assistant town manager, and the town manager. But this unifies our wage tables, USW, and the library, and the only one that's slightly off from that is our BAA, which is our administration union, which we look to the next time to align more closely with this. So from an administrative standpoint, it serves from a step, a grade and step schedule. It's clear to the individuals in the bargaining unit how that works and how their pay will be adjusted. And so we're pleased with this this agreement.
Sorry, Tony, can you repeat what you said about something that's not included in this?
No, what I'm saying is that there's 3 schedules. Let me be clear. Thank you. three schedules right now. The USW is one bargaining unit, right? And we have a wage schedule or table based on grades and steps. We also have now the library, which is a wage table based on grades and step. Those are synced up. So someone that's a grade 12 in a USW position will have the same steps and the same rates as someone in the library. So we've looked at it from fairness of inequity of pay. There's one bargaining unit where they have the same grades and they have the same steps, but the step amounts are slightly different. And we look to the next time when we negotiate to align them more closely. We like to have one wage table in theory for all three. So administratively, planning, forecasting, and all the gyrations we do with information is done much more efficiently.
Okay, yeah, that was the part where was there a particular reason why it wasn't?
Just because they, in negotiating their last contract, they being the BAA, they negotiated a different COLA amount than other bargaining units. It just was a matter of getting through the negotiations and coming to an agreement. I can't say that it was any more thoughtful than that.
Okay. As a general, from a general perspective, were there that many people who had a significant change to their earnings then, or I mean, their wage, I should say?
Well,
Were they
there's
nominal?
yes, there was some there was at least a 2.5% increase for FY 22, which has ended, and that's why we have a prior year retro. And then there was approximately a 2.5% increase in FY 23. And in fact, the only reason why, when you go to the next order, we only need a smaller amount for FY 23 is because I had planned on some estimated increase and it had factored into my planning when I submitted the budget for the town manager and to town council. So short answer, 2.5 in FY 22 and 2.5 in FY 23, I think is what the increases seem to come out at.
Okay. And for the individuals that are listed here, would you say like everybody had an adjustment, or?
I don't know where there's any case where no one didn't have an adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah, it was ratified by their bargaining unit, and they felt that individuals were in the right grade and they were put on the right step.
Okay.
And Tony, just out of curiosity, so it says that this bargaining agreement is good through June 30th, 2024. So I'm assuming that there'll be another contract negotiation after June 30th, 2024.
Typically what will happen is 9 months to 6 months before the contract expires. So that would be December of 2023 for 25, 6, and 7. We tend to try to negotiate a 3-year contract.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's what you have here is a 22, 23, and 24 agreement.
Okay.
So, Tony, are all these employees FTEs or are any of them part-time?
Yeah, a lot of them are part-time. That was established a while ago where I don't have the FTEs in front of me, although I can get access to it if you give me a minute. A number of these are part-time individuals. Positions, I should say.
Go ahead, Rick.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was given that they're part-time.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that they're not eligible for health insurance. Am I correct? Or other
Depends on the number of hours that they're working, but there are a number that are below 19 and a half hours, a number of them. And like I said, if you'd like to know what those FTEs are, I can look it up. You have to give me a minute.
Okay.
I'm just curious. I am glad to hear. One of my big concerns was, the wage table that the library people are now, on the wage table. This has been a long project by the town manager and the finance director to do this through negotiating with town employees. And like Tony said, it just gives a certain amount of clarity, I guess, into the future, into the present, and then into the future too, as we try to create town budgets. Is there anybody else left after the library? Tony, did you say there was one of the group?
That is honest. No, everyone's on a scale.
Okay.
What we want to have is the USW, the library, and the BAA to really be on the same scale, exact same scale.
Exact same scale. Okay.
I noticed on the table, it says page 3, there's a column. I mean, that must be a job title, but then there's no dollar amounts.
Yes,
Are they
because
no
there are no positions at this time. It's in the agreement, but there are no positions budgeted for or intended to be budgeted for the foreseeable future. They wanted to leave that position in the contract, but as you can see, nothing's been assigned to that.
So they won't, but the next contract, they could bring it forth, and at that time, they'll come up with a pay rate, or?
If the town manager so chooses to want to submit a position of page for the on behalf of the library director, and that's part of the structure that he or she wants, then clearly we would have to come up with the steps for that particular position and the grade.
All right, thank you.
No, the grade, we have 3 steps we'd have to come up with.
You said right in the beginning, Tony, because I'm looking at the longevity here, 12, Article 23. What was you said longevity's changed. What has changed? Maybe you did say it and I just missed it, but.
No, I didn't say it. Let
Okay.
me look up the FTEs
Yeah.
and then as I'm doing that, I can look at something else. All right. Apologize for the delay. All right, for the library, there's a total in FY23 of 8.27 FTEs that we budgeted. Not all the positions are full, and so on that document, all you're getting is those positions, those individuals' names where so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, but our actual FTEs, and again, I'd have to look at this more closely. We budgeted 8.27. We have not filled 8.27, and the individuals here. I wish I could refer you to the budget document, because the budget document will say how many hours we budgeted for. And if you'd like, I can get it to Deb and she can get it off to you
Right.
tomorrow. But it's less than 8.27 currently.
Okay. So that just reflects that those 8 that are listed there, some of them are part-time.
Absolutely. And I think there's 2 full-time positions that are vacant at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't have the change in front of me for the cost of contract. I think we're talking a total of $1,500 Actually, the budgeted amount for 23 that we had in there will be enough, and it's about $1,500 to cover the longevity pay. One individual that was receiving the largest longevity has left the town, and the other individuals that do have longevity, it does not total more than $1,500. So if you look at the longevity, after 15 years, it's 600 for full-time, 1,000 for 20. So our total cost is around $1,500 right now. The thing that was added is for part-time who work 20 or more hours. And again, there's only a few, and we have a 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. We did not have that. There was 0 for part-time.
And just clarify, thank you, Tony, just clarify for me too, like the longevity, do they get $600 after 15 years, 1,000 after 20, or is it just the longer they're in there, the higher that number goes up, right?
Yeah, the first is 15 at 600. It doesn't stack. And then it goes to, when they get to year 20, it goes to 1,000.
Okay, all right, so you don't get 600 and then 1,000.
No, no.
I didn't think so, I just want to clarify that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else have any questions, thoughts, comments on this contract?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, thank you, MJ. Thank you, Julie, right, for a second.
Correct.
Debbie, if you could do roll call for us, please.
Sure, MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Susie,
I'm actually going to abstain. I want to be transparent that I did not read this full thing before the meeting.
all right, Julie,
Aye.
and Nate.
Aye.
4 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstain.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. FY20, next order of business is FY 23-036. It's a transfer order, which is the contractual settlement for the Bridgewater Public Library.
That is correct.
Okay. I know that we just brought this up quickly in the other orders. Or anything else you want to add to this, Tony?
It's only $23,000. That takes into account any prior year, and the 17,614 for prior year. We're adjusting $5,500 to the current year full-time salaries. I had estimated an increase, as you can see, of probably around 12,000, which wasn't enough. So we're asking for an additional $5,500 to that full-time salary line item.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments for Tony on this order? Or how it relates to what we just discussed?
Actually, I do have a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Excuse me. Tony, as it does relate to the contract that we just voted on to approve to recommend to the council, where does this particular part of it play into it?
Oh, if you don't approve the funding, then we can't pay them.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, that's why we do it together now. Because you can have the contract ratified, but you need the appropriation to fund it.
Right.
And what makes up, is that discrepancy, that 5,500 between what you budgeted and what?
Yeah, what I estimated the contract might have been. I mean, that was back in March of last year before we got to finalizing it, but I kind of knew where we were going with the wage scale. And so I did my best to estimate where we would be. And I was short by $5,500.
the ball was off by 5,500. All right. Good question though, Julie. Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to approve.
Thank you,
Second.
Julie. Second from MJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Debbie, if you could do a roll call for us, please.
Certainly, Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Do I need to abstain because I abstained on the other vote?
I don't think so, Susie. I mean, this is just the funding part of it, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think she does.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I
Okay,
mean, she can if she chooses to, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of left up to the member, because if you're abstaining on one part and this is the approval of the second part of that part, and she abstained from the first, it goes to reason that it'd probably be best for her to abstain.
I agree.
I won't make
Yeah,
a
I
recommendation
abstain.
for her to do either.
yeah, that's okay. I appreciate that. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I abstained.
Logically, that makes sense. Okay, thank you,
And
Susie.
by the way, I also would like on the record, it's not that I'm necessarily fundamentally opposed. It's truly because I just wanted to be clear that, I apologize for not being prepared.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, Susie.
all right, Rig
Aye.
and MJ.
Aye.
So that's 4 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstained.
Okay, thank you. FY 23-037 is the transfer order for the Water Enterprise Fund. Seems like we're always moving money here. I see this is the fund, the first step in a comprehensive study of the town's water distribution system, water quality, and expected tie-in of additional websites at well sites. Some of this, I'm assuming we haven't done this before, Tony, right?
I'm sorry, I had to quickly mute. I didn't
That's
get,
okay. Hey, it just seems like, I
Yeah.
feel like that we've done this before. We've had this comprehensive study. Am I
yeah,
crazy, or-
and that's why I think it's important that I explain. So we've studied the water lines. We did a study on our water treatment. Okay. As a result of the available water or the lack thereof, if you recall, the tanks that store the water for the town were at really, from what these water superintendents said, we're at all-time lows, and we were getting into a situation where the water ban was on, as it was with most communities, but he and the DPW director were quite concerned about the levels. So what this is particularly looking at, it's looking at where we're drawing our water, okay, and whether or not we need to tap an additional well. Now, there's 2 driving forces. One, do we have enough water to service the residents in the town for drinking, flushing, and so forth? The other is the issue of PFAS. So you've heard all about and I'm sure been concerned about what's been reported regarding PFAS. And the states, I think, is particles per million. They have a measurement that was considered safe, and there was a standard set by DEP, EPA, or vice versa, and they reduced what they want cities and towns, municipalities, and so forth. They want the water quality to improve, to bring that parts per million down. So how does this connect to what this is for? If you think in terms of when they're looking at water quality, they may have a particular well where the parts per million is higher than this new standard that we're looking to achieve, and or can get to a point where it's above a standard that is acceptable to the current standard set by EPA, DEP. When you mix water from different wells, what you do is reduce the parts per million. The only way to understand what needs to be done and how this can be done effectively is to review what we're drawing on each well and to review the capacity of other well opportunities. And then to look at what we need in order to mix these waters together. And I'm doing this in a layman's way. I'm not doing it as an expert, my explanation here, so that the parts per million are below the required levels. In short, we're trying to find out where we can draw water to meet our water needs and how we can draw it and mix it in order to meet water standards. And this is very particular to that activity, and this has not been done. Did I confuse everyone with my explanation, which I may have?
No, I got it, Tony, and I know that many citizens in town here are concerned about the PFAS issue,
Mhm,
et cetera.
mhm.
But yeah, okay, that explains it, because I know, I know that we've done studies before
Mhm.
on the water and the sewer end of it.
Yeah.
But I see that this is actually something different, and it sounds like more specialized actually too.
Yes.
Anybody else have questions, comments for Tony, thoughts on this?
I guess I kind of have a question, but more of a comment, as it were. Does any of this play into the issue of the stormwater management that we had to follow up and abide by with EPA previously, or is there
No,
anything tangentially related to that when it comes to the drinking water supply? Are we
no.
at risk of any type of dilution of our water supply as a result?
Well,
And
in general, water that gets into your wells comes from your storm drains,
Mhm.
right? Yes, and so one would argue, if you want to get to theoretical, that in fact, why are you getting plastics in your water? That's what PFAS. Well, you're getting it in your water because you're using it, you're disposing of it. It's not biodegradable. In fact, some of it decays slowly, and the plastics find their way into your well systems.
Mhm.
One could argue, but the study here has nothing to do with the study that was for our stormwater.
so a follow up then, Tony. For the purpose, and will this study help us determine what type of method or means of conveyance for the water system to have in order for it to provide clean, safe water to the residents of town? Not just to dilute the supplies that we have existing, but to keep the supply itself sustainable and safe. Is that something that this study will help us understand better and more effectively plan infrastructure or capital improvements over? I only ask because, Jonas is usually pretty skilled and adept at that stuff as well. So I didn't know if he had shared any of that with you. It's like the long-term benefit of the study would be we want to have enough water, but ultimately, does it lead us to obtaining or improving the current infrastructure we have in order for it to be safer, cleaner, but also sustainable, and systems in place that will be able to maintain that sustainability?
Well, it speaks to the explanation, speaks particularly to water quality and expected tie-in to additional well sites. So that means quality and quantity, and also looks at the distribution. Now, all the water lines are on a replacement schedule, which is going to be quite costly, and we've already done a study on all that, where you want to change the types of pipes that are in the ground delivering the water. Okay, so all of this is around exactly that: quality water and producing enough water that service the town's needs.
Mhm. And just one last follow-up. Have any of the discussions been around any current methods to be proactive in that? Maybe new types of filtration media or filtration
Oh, our whole
systems?
plant, the brand new plant is centered all around that.
Mhm.
And then if the standard is changed, and any standards changed by DEP, EPA for water quality, and they set the standards, then we would have to add additional filtration systems to our water plant.
You know,
All right,
it's-
that
I mean,
helps.
Bottom
Okay,
line
thank
is water is going to be more of an issue than fuel oil in the next 10, 20 years.
Now, Tony, will this, I know sometimes we do these comprehensive studies too, in the future, it can help us unlock funding. Because we've had these studies done, we have this detailed information. We anticipate maybe that'd be the case with this, or,
Well, yeah, for instance, if anything that we do becomes eligible for SRF money, like our water treatment plant, $18 million of it, I got the number up, no, $14 million of it, I apologize. We got at a low interest loan, and a portion of that borrowing was forgiven, 1.8 million, so 14 million. And 1.8 million was forgiven. So that's the benefit of dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and doing these studies. You can you can position yourself to look for grants and or special funding.
okay, thank you, that was what I was looking for, thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else, any questions, comments for Tony on this order?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, MJ. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Rig. Debbie, if we could do a roll call, please.
Sure. MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
and Nate.
Aye.
5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great. All right, now moving on to what I've been looking forward to all night, the FY 2024 budget resolution. Just, to state this out front, this is not the budget, the budget resolution. Essentially, this is a guideline. It says right here, establishing guidelines and priorities for the town manager to develop the annual budget. And that's exactly what this is here. The town manager uses this resolution. And the budget is created essentially within it to the best of his ability. This is, a document that is dynamic. I think, was this Councilor Woods, yours brainchild in the beginning, Tony, I think?
Yeah, I think when I first came on board, it was very short and sweet.
Yep.
And limited the spending of and or estimating in certain revenue categories, because past practice was to be overly optimistic with revenue estimating. And what I'd like to say, through collaboration and cooperation over the last 5 to 7 years, I think we have the bones of a very simple yet effective document.
Yep. I think when we I saw our first budget resolution, it was maybe a page and a quarter. And if you happen to print it out, I print stuff out to put in the bind to be in the chair. It's now a 3-page document. So this is a document that has grown and become, I would say, more mature. I would point out to my fellow committee members that a lot of times the budget finance, the budget subcommittee, line A, so the unreserved free cash, the fund balance is targeted 2% of the 2024 operating budget. There has been talk in the past about reducing that because some councils are maybe afraid that it tied the hands of the town manager and the finance director if money was needed. But I think we've kept it at 2% fairly.
Nate, you moved it down last year to 1.5. The town manager and I are suggesting it moves back up. As you know, when the reserves are there at the end of the year, we make sure we have 10% for our stabilization. We maintain that 10% of our operating budget balance. We are required to add money to our capital for our capital equipment purchases. And recently, as you see, the one-time account has been drawn on. A lot has been drawn on due to retirements and payouts for retirement. And we anticipate that for the next year or two. long timers are now in police and fire retiring, and there's going to be a additional demand. So as you can see, we're down to 99,000 less tonight's appropriations in that one time. And or in the sick leave buyback one, we have a little bit more money, but we're being very cautious. So we've influenced that number and asked for it to get pushed back up to 2%, at least for discussion purposes.
Right, Tony, thank you for pointing that out, because I do remember being on, even like, we had a subcommittee within this committee.
Mhm.
Remember, Nate, you and Kathy, I believe, were on that.
That's right. Yep.
And I remember reducing it, but I don't remember meeting, I don't know if the subcommittee even exists anymore, but, so this is the first I'm hearing that it, well, when I read it in the packet, that it had gone up.
Well,
But
for the discussion purposes for this
Right.
budget cycle, yes,
Correct.
that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I should say too, Tony, we're not under huge pressure to make a recommendation tonight if
No,
we.
no,
No.
no.
So this is because I would kind of like to hear, because the budget subcommittee from the town council will also be discussing this. And I kind of would like to hear what they have to say
Mhm.
before we make a recommendation as a committee.
Mhm.
Just one, if
Yeah,
the-
Nate, I think that's a good idea.
okay.
I will also put together for this group and for the subcommittee, I want to put what our estimated retirement obligation is going to be.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I believe that
What
helpful.
contracts are going to expire, when they're going to expire, because these amounts are used to fund that. And
Yeah, check to
what our
fund that.
capital requirements are. So there's some hefty obligations that we use our reserves at the end of the fiscal year for.
Yeah, I think that supporting documentation would be helpful, Tony, you know,
Yeah.
where, like you said, it is asking for an increase over last year's
Mhm,
recommendation.
mhm,
Thank you.
mhm.
Nate, this is Debbie. The Budget and Finance met on November 22nd
Yep.
and voted 2-0 to recommend to the council for this resolution.
For this resolution right here.
Yes,
Oh,
Yep.
they already voted?
they already voted last week.
Okay, well, that,
Well, let me ask you this, though. Did they do it without those numbers that Tony was just offering to us?
It's the exact same document that is put
Oh.
in front of you, was put in front of them.
The town manager sat there and I'm sure he has, because we talked about this, I'm sure he expressed what I did. We have over $1 million worth of payouts over the next few years that we're gonna have to make for sick leave buyback and separation payment. We are being I guess, more conservative in what we're budgeting for our operating budget until we get over that hump. So that's what's driving the thought process, especially, and also on top of it, the capital needs. I mean, were in front of us from the school last year, about $900,000 for capital, approximately 400 and some odd dollars for IT capital, and about $500,000 in other capital. I mean, so we can spend $2 million pretty quickly. And this is our only funding source for those types of obligations.
So Tony, if we put it here to cover those things, then we're taking it from somewhere else. Is that?
We've always done that. Our
Right, I
goal-
know, but I just wondered where that extra 5%, who wasn't
Well,
gonna, where is that not gonna go, I guess?
It doesn't go to the budgets. We've been able to fund the budgets based on this conservative approach. You have monies coming in, and the only way to fund your long-term obligations and your capital obligations is to carve out some of the revenue and make sure that it doesn't go to the operating budget.
And if those things don't happen, like if those people, do they give notice that they're retiring, or we just basically?
By law,
They
some of
can't
them-
back out of, or is it something they can
there's-
change their mind?
No, there's nothing we can do. If someone gives a notification to retire, the contract has stipulations as to the payout. It's a financial obligation. It's a payroll.
No, I'm not saying we don't pay them out. I'm just saying, like, if they say they're gonna retire and then they decide not to retire, we've got the money sitting in the stabilization fund would
Yeah.
it stay there? Or if the capital item doesn't come to fruition, would the money stay in
Well, yes,
stabilization?
and that's why we use those stabilization funds. You'll see one-time stabilization, you'll see sick leave buyback stabilization, you'll see capital stabilization, and you'll see our stabilization. So every year you get an order when there's a surplus at the end of the year. We transfer every dollar into those buckets, so you know they can't be spent unless they come back through this body for approval. And that's what we've done so that it is fully transparent. So last year's free cash, whatever that number was, once it was certified by the DOR, we put through an order and we allocated a percent to our state general fund stabilization, capital fund stabilization, sick leave buyback, other one-time and unforeseen, and we also put some money in our OPEB stabilization. So that's how that flows. And that's our.
Familiar with it. I just wanted other people that weren't confused.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. And I'm emphatic because since I came on board, that was one thing that I wanted to ensure was part of our disciplined budgetary and planning approach. We have to carve out monies for those other obligations.
Yeah, because you said it was 2-0, the secretary, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Do you know, I know they have 3 people on it. Do you know, one person wasn't present to vote, right? So do you know who the two were?
Councilor Gallagher and Councilor Wood.
Who's the chair of that subcommittee, Debbie?
Councilor Gallagher?
Councilor Gallagher is?
Yep.
Okay, I'll propose to the group here, I've seen this enough over the years that personally, I feel comfortable with what I'm looking at, and knowing that they voted, but at the same time, if we as a committee, we could invite Mr. Gallagher to our next meeting and kind of have a joint conversation with a member of that committee. I'd be more than happy to do that too. So what are the thoughts of the committee on this?
I think that makes sense.
Excuse me?
Oh,
This
sorry,
is-
go ahead, Rig.
Go
No,
ahead, Ray.
go ahead, Susie, ladies first.
Go ahead, Susie.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a great idea. I would still love to see some of the number summary that Tony had mentioned.
Yeah, that's true. And the numbers that Tony was talking about, right? Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I
I'm
know that
ready.
Mr. Gallagher was in the past, someone that also went on the lower, and if we have it spended, so it's interesting to see that he did vote for it, so that's, I think, but I like the idea of not seeing the numbers also, but.
Yep. Me too. Debbie, if we could make a note right now to invite Councilor Gallagher and any member really of the budget subcommittee that wants to join us.
Will do.
To our
Ju-
next,
Oh, just to let you know, the meeting on the 6th for the council, there are
Yep.
no new items. So
Okay.
you technically do not have to have a meeting in December. This would
We
be
d-
your only item.
I was gonna say, we just created one.
It
Yep.
would just be this resolution.
yeah, what we do is important, that doesn't
Yep.
necessarily change my mind as what other
Yep.
people's thoughts.
Yep,
I'm of
you
the
can just
opinion,
pick the date that you want to do it.
Okay.
I'm of the opinion, Mr. Chair, that it probably is beneficial, since we do have a few new members on the committee.
Yep.
That we have this conversation, at least with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee of the council. Just if anything, to give them a bit of a refresher on how we do things, but also how we handle the budget resolution each year. And it is important, just because this is a malleable document that is,
Yep.
it's not necessarily an amorphous blob of budgetary, rhetoric. It is actually a living, breathing document that gives each successive year's budget purpose and a path.
Yep, I agree. So it seems to be the feeling, and Ray, did you have anything you wanted to add too? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was patiently waiting. No, yeah, I was just gonna just agree to the fact of inviting the budget committee. I would invite all of them and see who shows up, because it'll be interesting to hear all their disposition, even though 2 people voted and 2 were not available.
Yeah, I'm sure, and we should extend it to every member of that committee. I agree. I know that Mr. Council would too. This is near and dear to his heart. So, He'd probably want to join us anyways. All right, so
I was
Debbie,
just, Mr. Chair, I was just thinking about it. Ms. Ward, would that constitute them having to post a public meeting for themselves? Because that would be one, if all
Okay,
three
Matt.
members showed up, it would be 1/3 of the council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
all right, you know, we've done joint meetings with them in the past, so maybe that's what we need to do is just do a joint meeting.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can post it as a joint meeting between the both of us. I would post an agenda for you, and I would post an agenda for the budget and finance.
Okay, great. You know what then I can do too is I will reach out to Mr. Gallagher myself too and send an invitation to join us also. I'll see if I can work out a date, what dates maybe would work the best one too, because I'm looking at the 14th right now as a possible date. So that's the date that I will aim at.
sounds good.
Okay, sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so we're just going to continue discussion on the budget resolution. We'll put that under the old business for the next time. All right, so we are at the end of the meeting here. It's been a fairly long one. I would like to make a couple comments as chair. You know, it has been exciting. We do have a couple of members that are running for a different office, and how exciting. Just one thing as the chair, I would like to make clear, you know, is that as a committee, we obviously make no, you know, support or sponsorship or approval or whatever of any political candidate. And that really comes down to any political position too, for that matter. We are the finance committee, you know, it's hard to keep politics out 100%. I think you said at one time, Susie, sometimes policy is politics and the execution of policy can be politics.
That was me,
You
that's
know?
right.
Yeah, I
Because
remember that, you
budget
know,
is policy.
Yeah, it could have come right out of one of my political science papers. I loved it. But at the same time, you know, I firmly believe, you know, we are kind of the guardians, the watchers for our fellow tax-paying citizens here. And I do take that seriously. I think that we all do. You know, so I just want to make those couple of comments. You know, as a committee, we should try to be, you know, apolitical as possible and focus and look through the lens of a financial perspective. I think that we all can agree with that. So those are my comments as a chair. Also, you know, and moving forward too, and this should have been something in place. I'm pointing two fingers at myself here. In the future, for any announcement that we have that's outside of our agenda, I would ask that you just please get in touch with the chair, whether it's me or somebody else in the future. I'm always available even 5 minutes beforehand to do it. And that's how we've done it in the past too, if I remember correctly. So that's the end of my programming notes and comments. So as we look out to the future, we're going to look for the 14th to have our joint meeting, Debbie.
Yep.
And like I said, if we both want to, I suppose you should reach out as a secretary to them.
I can send Dennis a note if you'd like.
Yeah, and if you can just loop me into it, Debbie.
Yep.
Wait,
think
so I have a question. So the next meeting will be on the 14th, is that what you said?
that's what we're going to shoot for. We're going to ask for them to join us for the 14th.
Okay.
Is
I won't be available, just so you know, even though I know I just asked for that information, but I'll be in New York City for the day. I'll be on a bus coming back at that time. But I'll, you know, I wish you well and hopefully you'll have a quorum.
Well, do we want to suggest a couple dates then?
We could, yep. It's just, you know, my son plays high school hockey and coming up in the future here, he's got a game every Wednesday and he's a senior. So obviously I'm going to be wanting to watch his game. So
Yeah.
there's nothing on the 14th, but you know, Mondays can work too. So what would be a good second date that's not a Wednesday? It can be another Wednesday. I don't have to be there, but
No, you should be there. I'm just saying, I have, like I said, we're just doing a trip with the
so the
church.
14th does anybody else have an idea of because we can do any date, you know, as long as we have time to get the notice out, the public notice out.
I mean, if all else fails, Mr. Chairman, I'd be okay with either Monday, the 12th. Oh, no, actually, no, I'll be out of town. No, actually, no, I'd be okay myself personally with
Yeah.
December 12th or December 19th.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, all right.
I
So,
would be more open to the 19th. The week of the 12th, I'm gonna be in training from 8 to 6 p.m. So it's gonna be brutal.
Yep, so the 19th, so what do we want to offer, the 14th and the 19th?
Yeah,
Okay,
That's fine.
all right, that sounds good. So that's what we'll do, Debbie. We'll reach out to Mr. Gallagher and see if the 14th or the 19th work.
Okay, I'll send him a note tomorrow.
All right, that works. You know, everybody, thank you very much. Some great questions. You know, I'm glad to see the dedication here. That it is important, I think, that we discuss this budget resolution and see some numbers in a little more depth. If anybody is willing to make the motion that everybody loves so much.
Motion to adjourn?
There you go.
Second.
Who's the second, Julie?
Julie,
All right, thank you. Debbie, if you could do a roll call, please.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Susie,
aye.
Julie,
aye.
and Nate,
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Good
Have a
evening,
great
everyone.
night.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night, everybody.
Good one.
Bye
Bye-bye.
now.
Bye.